really just for the audience, right?
Yeah.
This doesn't go,
YouTube gets us to that, right?
correct, so if it's not a full house and loud, you cannot have to worry about it like we do when there's something else.
Right.
Yeah, you use it.
The requirement.
To some degree.
Sally, can you just speak up?
Sure, can you hear me?
Okay. No, then.
Okay, are we ready?
Yes.
And I'm very good. Okay, we'll call the city council work session of November 15th, 2023 at 5 p.m. to order. Roll call, please.
Mayor Allison,
Here.
Tom Baylor,
Here.
Kathy Sherman,
Here.
Casey Kinsman,
Here.
Wendy Rainey. Here. Ann Schaefer. Here. Kristen Carpenter is absent. Ken Jones is absent. That's a form of council.
Okay, thank you. Our work session topic tonight is the city of Cordova 2024 budget prep, general fund, expenses and revenues discussion. Manager Zam?
Well, I guess, a few things. I want to make sure everybody understands that what is in the fiscal year 21 personnel costs are everything listed under number 2. So exempt, increases as well as, just to make sure, and insurance is an estimate right now. The last we heard from insurance person is 15%, so that's what's in there. We're hoping to get a final number in the next 4 days. I just highlighted some of the bigger expenses. Also, I haven't asked staff to do any cutting at this point. We gave you what we thought we needed, then they're most of them here, they can address. If you have any particular questions, or we can come back and do that after we've got something with that. I mean, obviously we got expenditures, but, Susan, anything else? There's a lot of information, a lot of spreadsheets, hope you like spreadsheets. I'm learning to love them.
Oh, just the revenue ones. Oh, I did every line, but then for the expenses, I didn't do every line, I just did the bottom. You know, each department, whether it was up or down, and the differential is from this draft to the 23 approved budget. And maybe that's helpful.
Yeah, I think one big one that we might not, I don't think we highlighted was this, on page 23. Transfer to capital project fund, capital project fund 401, the 248. That was budgeted in 23. So that was ARPA money that was budgeted. It was in the revenue in 23. And then when we pulled that out,
Which number was that again?
it's on page 23.
Right.
And it's the first one, 101,901,5734. So they got pulled out, not pretty large, so.
But I think it was it an in and an out?
We took it out of the revenue. We didn't put it in the revenue when we talked to you guys about revenue previously. And that's why it's full. It's not an expense in 24. So I'm trying to do this.
Okay.
I guess my overall question is, can we see these estimated revenues and these estimated expenses? But for me, I kind of see the department heads as the like experts of their departments, and they know better than we do about where the places are to like find cuts that aren't gonna, ruin their, that so that their departments can still run effectively.
Great.
So I was just wondering, is the next step then now going to the department heads and asking them to find ways to save?
Yeah, that would be my take. I mean, we can't probably cut enough out of these budgets to.
I mean, we might
Yeah.
have to get back to zero, but
Yeah.
but so like right now,
Yeah.
the revenue or the deficit is 1.3, but like. It might be half of that, you know, like if we ask for some smaller maybe it's gonna be
Yeah, I think because.
10% less. Or something, you know, like that might not be the actual deficit.
Yes.
If we are able to find some savings.
Yeah, we'll have a staff meeting tomorrow after this meeting, we'll talk about that. And, that will be the request of staff is to, bring back something a little bit smaller. I mean, there's some things that people really need, and I could give an example from my budget. I really wanna send one of the street guys to get a CDL. We have one operator with a CDL and one mechanic with a CDL, and every time we have to go get a car or what, a vehicle impound or anything like that, you gotta have a CDL. To drive the big sand truck, you gotta have a CDL. And part of that's just because we're growing, we have younger guys, and so I'm sure there's lots of other reasons why these requests are in here, and so the really big ones like that need to get talked about with staff and then back here.
Yeah, I think I think we should do is go through this. And then at the end, before 7, we need to give staff some direction. And either, whatever that direction is, after we get done going through things, maybe we say we need to cut a certain percentage from labor, or we need to do whatever we need to do, or we may come up with some additional revenue as well to bridge that gap, so. I don't know, Kinsman.
Yeah, I really want to come back to, and I know this was a question I had for Helen, city manager, was this Arctic IT contract. And I brought this up probably the meeting right before she went out on medical. And she said this expense they had found a way to cover it within the budget. And so I'm a little bit surprised that it wasn't budgeted for this.
In 23.
So is this, so this is a continuum every year moving forward, is that how we understand it with this
Correct.
Arctic IT contract, is every year we're paying $146,000?
Correct.
Okay.
It's an annual contract.
But this contract is new for this year.
Yeah, we're not paying for last year.
Right, but this is now moving forward, this is gonna be a recurring.
3-year, 5-year contract. A 3-year contract.
Perfect. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, ma'am, go ahead.
thank you. May I address Mr. Kinsman's question as well? Just a little background.
Yep, go ahead.
So we started the Arctic IT contract in 2009, and pretty sure that was the date. And I think when we started, it was about $79,000 a year. It's based on the number of computers we have per staff, and then their service, their total care service. So the increase in that contract, actually, it's been a pretty long contract, but it's increased by the number of workstations that we have, and it's a cost per workstation, and then a little bit more for the total care, which means everybody can just call or email and get a response from Arctic IT. So that's the background on it, but we have had a pretty long-standing relationship with them.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so you wanna go through the lines that, what we wanna do, or do you wanna, pick up and jump?
Maybe instead of line by section.
Yeah, anybody, we can just do the revenues all in one. Have any, because we've looked at those before, any question, this does not have any of the proposals that we're gonna discuss later tonight. correct?
Correct.
Any questions on the revenues?
You just answered mine.
Pretty well set, I think.
So did we find out on
Go ahead, yeah.
the jail? Did they get a grant?
You mean the dispatch contract?
There was supposedly a grant that was put in for the jail at some point. Do you know, Officer
The
Hayden,
doors.
was there a grant to be put into the jail?
For the jail upgrades to the doors.
Well, I don't know. I thought I heard before Chief left, there was a grant that had been received, but it hadn't been allocated yet.
I'm not aware of any grant.
Okay.
I think that
I
was the
know we're
door,
not in,
door locks.
we're on the same page. There was something talked about.
Yeah, there was some sort of grant. What was it? Like maybe 300,000?
Yeah, it was somewhere in the hundreds of thousands, I
Yeah,
don't remember.
That was supposed to be put towards
The new door
the new
security
door-
system.
something for the jail. And that it had been
Doors and
approved, it
security.
had been received, but the money had been not put into the police fund.
So I'm not aware of any funds received for anything like that.
Okay.
I was just told that there was an allocated amount of money, $109,000 that was approved for those jail infrastructure upgrades.
Have you spent that?
No.
No.
Okay.
No, contract has been written and submitted and signed by the contractor, CNL Securities, down in Colorado, and by us at CP. But the contract holder is out of the office for the month of November. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to get a hold of him to confirm how to move forward.
I don't know, who would we talk to find out
Yeah.
that we're not just crazy about this?
Because I remember the chief talked to me about it.
I can check with finance and do a little looking around.
Okay, yeah, I can look through some minutes too. You feel like it was talked about at a meeting?
Yes.
Yeah, it would have been,
Um,
and you would have been,
I'm pretty sure they
Yeah.
told us what it was.
Okay.
to.
Oh,
when
and
did he
Wendy
leave?
was
When did he?
Boy, August
August.
14th.
And Wendy, were you on in August?
I think it
Yes,
was
July.
right,
You came on in July.
yeah, it was right after I came on and he had talked about it with me that week.
I have another point if we're talking about revenue. We have right now here for the police department projected on airline security. We can project $75,000, because that's the max of what they could get, but if they're at their current staffing, they are not gonna get that amount of revenue. Okay, so that's so weird. Here on that one.
Well, if they're not staffed to, we should save on the expense side of that, on employee side.
No, absolutely. I'm just saying right here, we have $75,000 in
Right.
revenue. They're not going to collect $75,000 in revenue.
Yeah.
There is,
Especially since we're
No
only
way.
at 29,000 for actual.
Any other questions on program? Have a motion, favor?
Keep an update on the, I don't have it, it's in the police, the, contract dispatching.
No, they did not get that contract. So that remains a zero.
Did not get it, or are we still working on it? Not
It's,
gonna have it.
their council did not pass. it.
Oh, wow, okay.
so we're losing Whittier dispatch and the proposed one isn't gonna go through with that. for your discount.
Correct.
Okay,
Whittier was canceled midsummer.
okay.
They have Sitka providing dispatch services for them currently.
Okay, any other revenue questions? Okay. Let's move on to the general public then. Go ahead.
Do we have we were doing workshops about our, like modifying our tax code. Do we have an estimated timeline on that process?
Sorry, I meant to get back to you
No, that's
today.
okay.
Yeah, I think we're going to do. December 20th is gonna be the first reading of that, and so into the new year for the second reading. And I think Holly thought we'd do effective dates for the sales tax. Any of the language changes, you know, she did say that. The things that are gonna earn us more revenue in sales tax are included in the ordinances later today. The whole language cleanup and the rest of that, you know, may also bring in some money, but if it isn't effective until the end of first quarter, beginning of second, I think that'll still get us, you know, the important part of the year kind of thing.
That was my question on like, by cleaning that up and making it clearer, hopefully, like, will that might provide some kind of bump to the
We shouldn't lose revenue over that.
Right,
I
yeah.
Right,
sure
but
hope we're
might
not
get
putting this work into lose. Yes, we should,
We should, I
but
don't
we
think
shouldn't be
that,
losing any.
It's just been too hard of a number to try to get
Yeah.
a number for, and then there are only certain things you can say too much out loud about sales tax, so, you know, we've done some estimations, certainly increasing the cap is going to do something, but also, cleaning up the language, and Holly said with the ordinance, the total rewrite of Title V, she's definitely gonna get with staff here, and we're going to maybe create the forms together, and she talked about, some kind of flow chart, something that becomes easy for citizens who pay it, businesses who have to collect and remit, and city staff for, you know, putting it in, so that everybody's on the same page, and, you know, hopefully that will be cleaner, and that would get more money, I think, also.
Okay, expenses. Ready for that?
Let's do it.
Page 7. First one is that a percentage of what they collect for us?
yeah, so that's why we decreased it, because we have been collecting more, so the more we collect, the less they charge us.
Okay.
And I think year to date it's.
Yeah, we actually, lowered that revenue projection also, we don't think we'll get the 485 that was budgeted in 23, so we put it down to 450. So, and we looked at what the fees have been, and based on a 450,
If we change our tax rate, that's at their level
Yes.
too, right?
that will.
Okay, questions on that? City council budget? Very much in there,
No, but I'll tell you, operating supplies have been going up since I've been feeding you.
yeah.
Thank you.
But I've been taking some of that from the mayor's also, because he's not gonna travel anywhere, so that'll cover. You know, it's okay within a budget,
Right.
you know, cause the whole budget won't go over.
Okay. Questions on that? Okay, city clerks,
Mostly personnel. For some reason, my election got budgeted at $20 in 2023, so that looks like a huge increase, but it was just an error entering it, I think. 2,000 has been about the going rate. In a year that maybe I have a special election, it's been tired. Yeah. That's all I can say about that.
okay. Questions on clerks?
Was there, and I guess I'm just looking at the assessor fees, I guess what was the reason it was higher in 2022? Just for my knowledge.
That was,
See that,
the year that we put all of our cards into our electronic format, so it took a lot of work. We were shipping all the cards up.
Not something we see, it wasn't a surprise, it was something that,
Right.
not something we need to look forward to that happening next year. Okay.
No,
Hey, the mayor's budget.
there will be a capital budget in Juneau someday, and the mayor will go down there someday to lobby for us. Hopefully, so we'll keep in a little bit of travel, because, you know, there could be
Yeah.
other reasons.
Hey, city manager.
Just so you guys know, the city manager budget personnel includes city manager, PIO and special project manager. Oh, yeah, any human resources. I always think of you as your own department.
So it's four people.
Mr. Mayor, Sam, could you repeat that? I didn't get them all.
HR, city manager,
PIO
PIO.
or, but is that what it's called?
I can't remember what it's called, Emily.
PIO grants.
Not.
And then special
Colin,
projects,
Colin.
Colin, Emily, Cheryl,
Yeah, Emily is like communications,
yeah.
PIO communication.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And Mr. Mayor, I have one other question for that budget.
Go ahead, Counselor.
So what, 55050, the contractual services? Is there something specific in mind for that 10,000?
No, that was brought across.
Yep, just checking, thanks.
And is that anything specific that we've spent this year on, or is that just more of a broad, any contractual services goes through that bucket? That's
Well, not any contractual service.
used within that.
I do not know what was charged to that in
Yeah.
23. I can find out.
Hey, council member.
Yeah, well, I know we hired personnel for the HR position when we did not have a HR position. And I think that person's still on the city payroll. Is that true? And if so, why? They hired there was money budgeted and she hired a person to do HR.
You mean like a contract?
No, I
An
guess.
employee?
Yeah,
Yes,
that contract.
yes.
I'm
We had a
sorry.
contract
Sorry, yeah.
doing HR before
I
Cheryl.
don't say the name,
Yeah.
but
That person is now currently helping with the NetSuite and the financial software.
The implementation of the new financial software.
And she also helped with the,
And she had the records contract that got us the new records management,
So
records retention
this
schedule.
individual's salary is down and under finance then now, or?
She's not salaried, she's contract.
So,
yes, so some of it is
Professional services.
in non-departmental and financial, in the finance department. And some of it, went to some of those CIP. Remember there was the,
Record was a CIP.
records was the CIP, and then there was the, financial software. So a portion of it is in there.
so that's 5 different.
Yeah, she's good, so we're
Budget
keeping
lines.
her.
That's what I'm just trying
I
to
know,
track,
I'm
this
just-
person is being tracked through 5 different lines, got it.
Yeah,
As
It
long
will not
as we
be
can account
Moved
for it.
on to other things.
it won't be
Yeah.
that way on 24.
Okay, where in 24 is she at? This individual at,
She is in
Which one?
non-departmental.
non-departmental.
Unless she still has some, I don't know about CIP list, there might be a little bit of funding left in there, but, for.
So in 23, she was in up to 5 different categories somewhere, but in
I'm
20
not sure about 5, so she did,
CIP, non-departmental, city manager,
no,
finance.
she was not in city manager.
Okay.
She was
So-
not HR, and Cheryl is
Was For
HR,
all 20.
that was in 22, maybe, when we had the contract.
Anything else under city manager?
I'm just saying that model makes it very hard to track when we're trying to look at dollars and cents and try to budget where it goes in the future, and it's a very easy way for money to get lost, and we're spending money that's not accounted for, that's all I was saying. So if you're saying in 2024 that it's should be at least in one, maybe two, that sounds a lot better to me than more than that.
I don't recall, maybe I missed the meeting, but I don't recall approving a contract in excess of the 25,000 for that. Did we get brought to the council for a contractor to just jump around from department to department?
So the Oracle contract was approved. The Starnick contract was approved. And she is working to support those. If she's not part. She wasn't in the Oracle contract as far as I know. And
I have to look back to find agenda items, but I can't recall. if
I
we
don't
had.
believe so, yeah.
I think what he's getting at is was there do we have a contract with that person? Since they're not an employee then, right? Just a contract, do we have a contract with them?
I don't know, I'd have to look.
I think what Ken is saying, I don't recall either, a contract coming before council, and council is supposed to approve all contract over.
I remember it came before us because the HR position was not filled. And so there was very valid, we all thought it was a very valid reason to get somebody in there, we needed, that's what I believe we'd be okay, that contract, but now it's morphed into these other things, so that was my question. Once the HR person came on board, why did that position continue? There may have been a need for it, but I don't think it ever came back to council. Obviously, it didn't come back to council, because none of us knew what she was doing.
Yeah. So we'll look into that
Thank you, Sam.
and see how they're employed or contracted. Okay, anything else on the managers? And then we'll move on to finance.
What are we gonna do with the finance director?
That's the way it is.
Does the budget include, if we did have one at the current rate, if we were paying them?
Finance director, no,
So if we end up with a finance director, there's an open position, correct? Not that we
Are
think.
we advertising it currently? I do think it's actually being advertised.
comptroller is.
Oh, comptroller, okay.
There will be.
So
So
someone
there
were
are
to
four
just
positions in there. The four that are filled within finance.
fill, so we have an open position that's not being reflected in 2024, that if for some reason someone decided they were gonna take it, even though I think we've all agreed, no one's gonna take it at the salary, but if someone did, that's a risk that we have in this money, that would be more money that's not budgeted.
Well, but we have contracts in place for the people that have been doing the finance director work, which
And where does that show up at
Yeah.
professional services or?
I think it's,
Yes, so there's, a couple of places, not a couple of places, but there's two different, levels of service. So one is in finance, one is in interdepartmental, and that's about the audit. So two different,
Okay.
types of financial support, maybe is a good word to say. And so,
And we're saying if we had a finance director, those two line items would go away entirely, or there's,
no, I don't believe the audit would go away entirely. Audit support, we did that when we did have an instructor. But in professional services, so you can see it's up at $75,000. So I kind of worked with Barb, we split out what we had for comptroller support to help Barb and to get those things, and then took it and what was done more for audit.
Okay.
Then that got moved to interdepartmental, because that's where the audit is.
and we're talking, I'm looking at audit fees, is that what we're referring to?
Yes,
And not, okay,
so
but
that
you would
is,
say we would still have some,
Right, we pay for an audit, it costs us about $88,000
Sure.
to do an audit, and then we pay for the support from Ultimate.
And if we had a finance director, what piece of that would go away? We're still gonna have an audit. And that we'd still have the $88,000, correct? But the rest in theory would, no, so that,
I mean, Susan, maybe, I don't. We've always had support for an audit,
sure.
so I can't tell you what that, how that would change.
So really, this line, if we had a finance director, we're still gonna pay the same in that line.
I would imagine,
Okay.
close.
Not enough to make a difference that we could look at taking some money from there. If we're looking at raising a salary of, hey, let's take some money from here, and we have this contract service of 75. There's,
Oh, well, the 75 is not about the audit.
I know, I'm saying the 75 is because we don't have a finance director, correct?
The 75,
For outside professional services, if we had a finance director, that line item would, in theory, go away.
Depending on what time of year you hire.
Sure,
the
absolutely,
finance director.
100%, but even if it was mid-year next year, 25, that line item should go away. But you're saying really in audit fees, there's nothing we could pull to make that a higher salary if we're trying to attract a finance
not
director.
at the level of numbers that I have.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you.
I would say that I would also think because right now we are paying somebody to help us at a finance director comptroller level,
Mhm.
that we probably will, even if we get a comptroller, we will still need some support at the finance director level, which would,
Still come out of the professional services indefinitely or until the finance director's up and going and moving?
Would be hard to tell.
Okay, no, that's fine. Okay, thank you. And then I guess I call HR up to ask, or maybe you guys know, what's the current salary we have posted for the finance director? Ballpark.
Let me look real quick.
Okay.
I can find it. It's better than ballpark.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
It is. I can find at the comptroller, 64,000 to 80,000.
that's a comptroller, but you want finance director?
Yeah, is that the position we're wanting to fill? Is that what we have
Yeah,
on?
We are flying a comptroller because Barb's retiring.
Sure.
That'll be open, and we do not have a finance director in place.
We had advertised the finance director for probably the last 6 months, but
What were we advertising at?
it is the higher level, so we have, so it would be kind of equivalent to police chief, which is 71,000 to 100,000.
And that currently isn't advertised
It's
as
not
a
advertised
vacant position.
or included in 24th budget.
Correct, okay.
Any other questions? Finance department? Moving on then to planning.
Are you anticipating appraisal survey fees? Is that an average to 10,000 or?
So, yeah, we're expecting to get some pretty good high resolution, LiDAR topographic information from the state this coming year, which is gonna help us identify the properties that we have that are much more developable than the others. And so I was hoping to have some money set aside and potentially, have a professional look at certain pieces of land to see how easily roads or lots can be developed for the properties that we have that we're trying to sell.
Perfect, that speaks to it.
Any other questions from planning?
Well, just comment, I would love to develop it on that money.
Or come up with a proposal how we're gonna recoup that money. I know we have to
Yeah.
spend money to gain money, but. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, this, while you're up there, I guess I wouldn't support that because it's, I mean, it's nice to have the resolution if I could walk in there and see all your flats, your property. But as the developer, it's up to me to go out there and figure out if it's a developer or not, and I've done this. You get the local guys out there and say, can you build me a road? And that's how it's done, for us to pay to do that.
It's also for, you know, sometimes we have right of way disputes and surveys are getting at least, you know, $6,000 plus these days.
No, they're not. But anyway.
It depends on the size of the survey.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and so, you know, it's also nice to have a little bit of money for when we do need to have the random survey done for, like I said, right of way disputes or things like that where we need to get something cleared up.
Yeah, when you say right of way dispute, that's something like you'd have with the state, is that what you're referring to?
No, I mean, a lot of times, you know, if somebody says, you know, we go out and we say, well, this is the right of way, and someone says that it's not, and then, you know, occasionally, if we know that surveyors in town, we'll have them take a look at it, shoot a couple lines real quick, just so we can actually establish where our right of way is, so that we know where we should be enforcing certain things. And that we're not, you know, intruding onto private property.
Well, if a private property owner you think's intruding on your right of way, just come to the private property owner to get the survey done. Why would the city go in there and survey his property?
We're not surveying his property, we're surveying the right of way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or for property.
Potentially, you may not agree, of maybe a spot to cut a little bit out.
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, the biggest thing was just looking at.
I wanted to make sure we weren't anticipating some, I mean, for me, I always look at litigation that's coming down or something we're trying to dispute. It's trying to be proactive, which I appreciate, but potentially a spot where we could cut.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, thank you.
Anything else on planning? Moving on to the planning commission. And then on to Department of Motor Vehicles.
I think we talked about this, we established this a public service. This is what we're offering the community. This is not a for-profit anything, that we have motor services in our community, which is fine if I can accept, I can look at it that way. It is a convenience for members of our community.
This is for a part-time individual.
Yes.
So why is the health insurance full? If it's a part-time individual.
Health insurance is offered,
Huh?
health insurance is offered across the board at the same rate for city.
Even for part-time?
Yes,
This part-time person though is in another department too, right?
No.
No, just there, okay.
And I guess is that, I mean, I'm just looking at the cost for 22 and this year, did we have some vacancies in that position? Is that why the insurance costs were so much lower? Which insurance is just going up?
I actually believe, let me look at something real quick. This is one that earlier today, this person waives insurance, so I actually have corrected it after the packet came out. That there is not an insurance cost on it.
Okay, so for 2024, that number should be 0?
Yes.
Oh. Look at that. So far, you're the bearer of good news the whole night.
Nothing mistakes.
Okay, anything else on DMV? Once. Cool. Dave. Law enforcement.
What do you anticipate for final quarter overtime?
Close to 150.
That's where you finish the year at?
That's our estimation, yes. I believe we're currently at 1 30.
And 26.
130 and, yeah, I mean,
130.
at the month, 139.
Yeah.
Overtime.
Do you anticipate that number going down just with the 12-hour shifts?
No,
With your current staffing with the 12-hour shifts, you don't anticipate that going.
I meant with not overtime after 10. The union contract,
right,
so if we. if
We're
I-
paying 2 hours
Yeah,
every
I
day
understand
right
that.
now and won't be doing that next year. So will be a considerable savings in overtime, don't you think?
I'm not saying the amount of overtime is gonna go down,
oh, I see,
I'm saying the cost of overtime is,
I understand your point, okay.
which is one reason that it stayed at where it was budgeted in 23. I'm not sure what that is gonna look like, it's certainly gonna be less than it is now.
So this labor number, salaries and wages number, how many individuals is that then? Where's? How many is that? Does that include the chief and,
Yes, alright, hold on, let me figure out where you're at here.
So on page 11, salaries and wages under law enforcement and then in jail operations. Those two numbers added together cover all of the police officers and all of the dispatchers.
And all of the dispatchers you are offering, yes.
and how many officers are we budgeting for? Chief
And 4,
Is what's reflected here. So the chief vacant position is reflected in this budget.
correct.
and then in the jail, that's all the dispatchers?
Yes,
I'm not so naive to think that there wouldn't be overtime. If we brought on another officer, what would that number be? There's gonna be overtime, I know
I
that.
couldn't begin to even offer an estimation just because it's so variable.
Yeah, HR,
Like, come up and just
please,
join.
please, please. You have a seat at the table. You had one all night.
I tried to tell her.
I know.
So I think I heard somebody say that jail was, communication clerks and law enforcement was police. They're all split up between those two. Law enforcement have an 80-20 split between law enforcement at 80, jails at 20. Dispatchers or communication clerks are 70-30. So there's a little bit of all of them in there. And to speak to your question, a rough estimate, if somebody came in, mid-range on if they came in with some experience, I would say like right around 120, 125 for overall, if they took our insurance and
Sure.
had more than just them.
But we're saying if we wanna just look at salaries and wages, because we have a separate line for insurance, is correct? If we're
Yeah.
breaking it down,
Yes,
Yes,
yeah,
okay, so salaries, wages,
salary.
I guess how do you break down insurance? And, cause I know the benefit package we're gonna offer them is worth 120, but when it comes to salaries and wages, and that's what's gonna ultimately affect overtime too, that's where number would
Right,
pull from, or should help even out from that number.
yeah.
What's that salary?
Just the salary line, the 5,000, I'd say probably 110, 115. And then.
Or-
Huh?
Or chief.
Oh, for chief.
No,
Are you?
no, I'm fine with
Police
it. I'm
officer?
talking at this point, if we had another officer, to me, this is the time we're gonna talk about that.
Oh, no, no.
And, I'm looking at overtime, I'm pulling from that number, what does that look like?
Okay, just 5,000, I'm gonna take that back, because I just gave you the number that includes FICA, PERS, all of that.
I wanna know the salary if we brought on a 5th officer.
Yes,
We currently have 4, we're missing a chief, we have an acting chief, but if we brought on a 5th officer, what would that salary
final
look like?
answer,
Yeah.
80 to 85.
Thank you, that
Yes.
seems more in line with, I just went through the contract, I'm like, I didn't see anything in there that was close to 110, I mean.
And that doesn't
way,
include
I guess.
overtime, that doesn't include.
Sure,
Yeah.
yep, that's the base salary is 85. Okay,
80% of which would be in law enforcement and 20 in jail. And how many dispatchers are in
4,
and are fully staffed,
no,
there? One
No.
short?
1 short.
is that reflected in here? A
Yes.
5th dispatcher at least, okay, good.
Yeah, So I guess my question is, we're one position short dispatch,
Mhm.
and then we're one position short in officers, which is the chief. right
Just the
now.
chief, yes.
Thank you.
Mayor Allison.
Yes, go ahead.
So I had a couple of questions and I just want some clarification, I guess. So in this budget, we are budgeting for a chief and 4 officers and 5 dispatch. Is that correct?
I
Yes,
think so. That's accurate, yes.
Okay, thank you. And the only 2 line items I had questions about were other equipment and rentals. That's a big jump. I was just wondering what that was for. 55,000, other equipment and rentals.
So other equipment and rentals, that $45,000 number you see there is indicative of various different things. We found that in past budgets, a lot of different things weren't reflected accurately in their line items. Things that would belong in dues and subscriptions or other equipment rentals would go to communications or would go to vehicle parts and repair, fuel and lube, things like that. So that $45,000 number, that is estimations for new equipment. Also, it's reflective of repair, maintenance, and other equipment, of which we were budgeted $7,500 in 2023, and we spent almost $14,000. For equipment, furnishing, and tools, we were budgeted $2,500, and we're almost at $4,600. And by placing the 45 number on other equipment and rentals, we're hoping to kind of merge those line items as kind of like a catch-all, if you would.
Mhm. So basically, Cam, you're doing some cleanup and kind of putting categories, expenses where they should be listed. Is that correct?
That's my aim.
Yeah.
Whether or not that goes through, I understand completely, but I'm just trying to reflect numbers as accurately as they can be right now.
Okay, thanks. This is your first budget, right?
This is my first time, and as you can see, I don't have a clue.
That's fine. Thank you.
Where does the leased purchase of the vehicles show up in here?
The purchase of our vehicles,
Yeah,
for 24. It's.
yeah, it was a 3-year or 4-year deal, 3-year deal.
Right, roughly 23 a year or something for.
and it's probably in that line
It
item.
is, I think that's the line item we talked about.
Okay.
Oh, that's.
Yeah, that,
That's part of it.
that, because it
Yeah.
had lease.
The community leasing
Yeah,
partner.
that was part of it.
Okay.
That includes the vehicle.
So say that again, the other equipment and rentals includes that,
That,
please.
the community vehicle lease
Okay.
payments for the new police cars.
Dues and subscriptions, they can.
Yes, so that, dues and subscriptions. We estimate that through our record management system, our Axon tasers, our Axon body cameras, we have roughly $3,700 payments on these, throughout the year. And this is one of those items where, so we have our office support, we have, power phone for dispatch, we have, eForce, we have, which is our record management system. We have Arctic IT, for IT purposes. There's several things that we have subscriptions to that we have to pay monthly or quarterly that weren't actively reflected in the last budget, those would go under communications and things like that. So again, this number is just indicative of what I project, assuming everything falls under the correct line item that we will have to pay.
Kristen?
So a lot of these things, that would be reflected in these numbers, it's not just police, it is also dispatch. And dispatch, has a lot of these subscriptions and dues, for their power phone services, their, emergency response stuff. And it's all kind of mashed together between LE and dispatch.
I guess I would be looking at where things are higher. If you're saying something was miscoded, and now we're trying to write that, I guess I would be looking at where was it coded and then where are we coding it now? That to me should equate closer to, I know year over year, everything's gonna go up, but it should be closer to a zero than, if you're saying here's 45, I'd like to see, here's 45, and we're pulling some of this from, you said other repairs, or this includes our lease, community lease services in there, and this includes, X, Y, Z. That's how we got to this number. We're trying to put it in here, this is what we're trying to do. And I'm only saying this, you just admitted this is your first time budgeting it, so if we can see where those things were pulled from 22, 23, and why they're here on some of these that had big jumps, and those dues and subscriptions, and 45, if you're saying you're trying to clean up, where are we cleaning them up from?
Sure, I actually brought my expense tracking sheets for 23, if you care to look at that.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
Jail operations?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, go ahead.
Cam, I just had a specific question about professional services. That was a big jump and just wanted to know what that was for.
Professional services is reflected in that split, I guess, between dispatch and LE. Because we both respond as jailers. But we'd like to see professional development, which is the line item above. Maybe I'm confused on what professional services, these are services that we provide, or
Typically,
Well-
It's a contract.
typically it's a contract that somebody, a professional is providing you services.
okay,
And professional development would probably be what you were referring to. You have
Yes.
dispatch who
School.
you would like to train them on how to be better jailers. Is that
correct.
Okay. So then I would say some of that money or all that money.
So maybe I miss, yeah,
We just need to plot them.
yeah. So, but with professional services, they're, in the jail, we provide fingerprinting, for the community. We have to upkeep, our fingerprint machine, which runs software on it. It's, directly linked to the state. So when we book in an offender who's committed a crime, we have to run, different fingerprint software, and it's no longer ink. It's all on a computer where they scan your hand and you send that off to the state and things like that. So there are services that it would require a budget for. But I'm gonna have to relook at that. I hear where you guys are coming from, and that might have been a misprint there.
Any other questions on the jail? Okay, moving on to fire and EMS. Thank you, Cam.
Pleasure.
Your wages on this includes fire marshal, EMT,
Wages include, fire marshal, 2 paid staff, and a temp employee, possibly 2 temp employees, depending on their schedule. Last year, this year, 2023, we only had 1 temp employee that ran nights from April, and I think his last day was last Thursday. So it covered most of it, yeah. We would like to continue that.
But that's separate from salary, that's under this temp employees line item,
Yeah, there's a temp employee line item there.
and that's reflective of a year-round position.
The temp employee,
I mean, we have a budget at 20.
yeah, that's a seasonal,
Seasonal.
what they call it, a seasonal full-time position.
Yeah.
We would like to run it from May, and the last day was actually last Thursday.
And you want to do that all over again
All
next year?
over again, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you saw my chief's memo for the council meeting, so. And then one other line item I'd like to discuss, if you don't have anything else on the fire department side, is the disaster management budget on the bottom, 59405. The increase of $6,000. That is for employee training, community training, because we did not receive the FHFP grant this year. Around $36,000. So we kind of threw in a number of 6,000 to see if we can get at least a couple people trained and flying them down to Kentucky or Florida or wherever they're going to do their position specific training.
Bring in, that's something I want to bring up. So we have, does that mean, I don't know her title, Heather, where does her budget, or where does she fall in on the budget?
She's under a grant and she's contractor.
Okay.
And that should be under one of the grant deals, EMPG grant.
Okay.
You plan on doing a little more travel and airfare? That's a big jump, huh?
it's moved down the line.
Okay.
Yeah, the line item should be 52120 for that one. So it's pretty much pushed straight across.
Well, and here it's reflecting that it was transferred, your car rental budget just moved down to airfare.
Yeah.
That's
I think we've tried to
Travel.
get those where it's just one line.
10,000, 10,000.
Yeah, 10,000,
Everything anymore, right?
Yeah, in the future, we will only have one line.
One line of travel,
Travel.
that'll cover all. those.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Questions on the fire department?
And you're looking with your, I guess, and with on-call, I guess, which line item are you looking that you would like that to be added to? Or are you creating a new line item? for
I
that?
think we'll have to discuss that at the council meeting. I don't know.
This is still based on current policy.
Yep.
Yeah. It could go two ways. One, it could go into this line item where each volunteer is an employee of the city during their on-call, or the funds just go directly into CVFD account, and CVFD will issue the checks for the amount of hours that they work for the week or the month or whatever. But I guess that's for further discussion.
I guess currently for EMS, because for every time they go out on call, or respond to a call, they're paid something at that
Absolutely,
point. And
yeah.
Which line item is that on here?
That is the volunteer compensation, it would be 52320. Volunteer fireman,
So, okay, so it's under fire.
Yep.
Your EMS and fireman, that's one lump.
yeah,
So when someone responds to a fire or a medical
train.
response,
yeah, it's $20 that they get.
Right.
Yeah.
either one, they're both the same, and that's that line.
That's
item.
that line, item, yeah, and that's an invoice that we give to the city annually, and then fire department distributes that.
Anything else for fire?
Does it look low?
Compared to what you really want, yeah.
So I don't know if you know, but if you go through the last 5 or 10 years, we're really stagnant. There's, we've been asked many times to lower our budget, and it's like, we're can't really lower it any more than it already is, so that's where it sits.
It's only a 5.5% increase. Better than a lot of the other departments.
Which is I mean, that means they cut because we had more than a 5.5 increase just in personnel, so.
Yeah. And this is one of the departments with all of the volunteers that we're getting a pretty good bang for overall buck on that.
Thank you for recognizing
Fire
that.
department, yeah.
Mhm.
And I would just say that's an understatement.
Thank you. Disaster management, it's just her supplies and training stuff. Do we intend on additional training this year? The way it went from 9 to 15.
You just said what you said that.
Oh, that's what I
Grant.
But that's not part of her.
That's a grant that expired and now we're picking up that cost.
Okay. Okay, I see. Library?
Who's included in this staff?
Yeah, it's only a 2% increase.
Librarian and
So
how many?
who's in library?
Just stay at the table. Stay at the table.
She's trying to hide during that.
And stand up. So currently in here, we did just we welcomed a new library director that just started on Monday. So she's hitting the ground running. So she is included in the budget as well as, let me get down to this part of this. There are 4 librarians, but they're not full-time. They're all part-time, right around 0.5, so 40 hours a year. And then a library assistant. And that is it for
And the librarian.
library.
So 6.
Yes, library assistant is at 3/4.
So in terms of FTEs, the part-times are 2 FTEs.
Total, yes. So 3,
175.
yeah.
Got it. Thank you.
Mhm.
Pretty straightforward on
Jump
that.
out on it. Other questions on the library? Okay, Cordova Center. The one employee, is it full for this? employee?
This is a full-time employee and then a quarter of employee that floats between library, museum and so 1 1/4 FTEs.
Okay. Between library and museum.
And Cordova.
So a third of that.
Well, she's a quarter. and then split between the other two.
So half of it.
Oh, oh my God. Yeah.
Make it even
1 and a
too hard on
quarter
yourself.
FTEs go to Cordova Center,
Oh,
is to answer that question.
There's one full-time person for the Cordova Center. What is their role?
The Cordova Center event coordinator. So they take on, yeah. Megan,
Then to the council staff.
Do you have a question?
Just your general role, this,
Oh, yeah, just managing overall the events that go on, between that, banquets, state functions, private events, organization groups that come in.
are you going out seeking these things, or they come to you, then you coordinate the? with-
So when I first got here, I initially just wanted to, like, get a feel for things about, where this position is and like where y'all see it. My intention for next year is to begin sort of marketing for the Cordova Center. That's why I added $2,000 to the travel budget, because I'm hoping to find the type of convention, conference such for the state of Alaska to try to get the name out there, not only for the city, but the Cordova Center itself. They'll have a really beautiful facility that I think should be shared with the rest of the communities that exist within the state.
And then to go back, this is 1 and a quarter salaries here. Yes, perfect.
Yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, go ahead.
I just wanted to comment, I know that temp employees increased in this budget, and, I talked with Megan a little bit, because we've never reflected that very well, but when you have, I just want to explain for council, when you have a banquet and you have all those tablecloths and napkins and everything too, there are people who come to work for Megan that are washing, drying, ironing, folding, preparing all those linens, and then also sometimes dishware as well. So I think this number more accurately reflects, the expenses that are involved in these conferences. So I'm actually pleased to see that, because I think we need to know what the costs are.
Just a comment on what she pointed out. Yeah, that's increased too, but I've also taken a look at the fee schedule in terms of like what our expenses are between time, between, what needs to be done prior and after events. Like, it's not just like what people see, like you walk into an event, yeah, it looks beautiful, but there was 4 hours of ironing done, and between that and the dishes that need to be washed, need to be put away properly. Like, we can't really 100% trust all organizations or groups that come in to like put our equipment away. And the sky's the limit and where you want to see this, like between the types of events that go on, between a short of like smaller get-togethers and weddings. I think that was the original intention for the space itself.
So we will see the fee schedule later on, correct, Megan?
Yes, that'll be a different meeting.
Yeah. Yeah, great. I just want to make sure that.
and that's where I was driving at, as well as your function and the ties in, so the fees need to reflect what you're doing.
It's more itemized too, like in terms of like linens, in terms of glassware, in terms of dishes, like whatever you're looking to use, like we have it and we want to offer it, but we also want to make sure that we're accurately accounting for the services that we're providing to the community.
I love it.
Good. That's my Schaefer.
Speaking of the marketing around the Cordova Center, at a previous meeting, I don't know when, it's been a while, but it had come up that we had an MOU with the chamber to market, like that was gonna be part of their role, was to market the Cordova Center as an event space and a meeting space. And I was just wondering if that had ever been followed up on.
I had met with Kathy Renfall on one of the first weeks I've been here, and she had expressed to me that it had not been signed yet.
Okay.
I think Kathy Sharon had forwarded me one that had been signed, I think 2013, Kathy, that's correct. So
Yeah.
I'm previous executive director of the chamber, but the one that had been presented, which I have not seen the present one. But the present one that exists, that had not been fully followed through on.
I'm pretty sure it's in the last council meeting, whoever the new president of the board is, she mentioned it was not signed.
Okay.
And And that was brought up that we might be going a different direction now that we have our own coordinator too, so.
Yeah, like. Totally, wherever y'all see this going and where you want it to be, like we can get it there, you just have to like allocate and plan for that.
Make some money. Make us some money.
Okay, anything else on the Cordova Center?
I have a quick question.
Go ahead.
Megan, what's the
Market.
6,000
Yeah.
in furnishings? Is that
Totally.
just replacing?
So all of which, that 6,000 has already been accounted for and what I intend on doing with that. One of them is the actual physical furnishings in the building. No department has actually, accounted for that yet, in terms of like tables, in terms of even to the library, tables and chairs, the chairs that sit outside those windowsills. I received a quote from the original company that had provided the Cordova Center with all the furnishings, so I accounted for basically just one or two of these physical tables and intention of replacing one of those chairs upstairs, the ones that outlook. I think all the equipment is held together really beautifully over the past 7 years, but it's also been 7 years, and I think it's time to just start taking, accounting for all of that too.
Okay, anything else?
Oh, that and a few things in the kitchen, mainly putting away the glassware they currently reside in cardboard boxes. And for anyone who's worked in the restaurant industry knows that that's not the most sanitary or time efficient, and like waiting for those to dry and then having to put them away versus buying the proper equipment for that.
Okay, anything else? Let's go. Thank you. Museum.
Sorry for my tardiness. I had another meeting, so I'm happy to be here.
It's like you're right on time. You're at the table and we want to talk to you, so.
So the museum budget looks very similar to last year, with just a few costs rising in, replacing a couple of computers, and that information, but we'd like to maintain, and add staff member is kind of what we're looking at. It was budgeted for, 2023, but with the crossover between myself and Mimi, a lot of that was used up, but we'll really use those funds that were crossover to hire another museum assistant to help with, maintaining the front desk, helping with gift shop and, archive time.
So this wages includes a director and
Um,
one part-time, two part-time?
So that would include, myself, curator, who is full-time, 2 museum assistants, one at 30 hours, one at 20 hours, and funds for the cultural leader that is split between myself, the library, and the Cordova Center.
So FTE, speak to that. What does that equate to?
Oh, yeah.
It is 2 1/4. No, 3 1/4.
Okay, so 2 full-time then,
Uh,
museum coordinators, assistants,
yes, full-time would be the
Yeah.
director, the curator,
and we want to add one more full-time,
and Noah part-time.
part-time.
Yeah, we have 2 part-times at different levels of
Okay. That's what I did.
museum assistants.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anything else on the? Museum? Or, yeah, museum. Okay, easy.
Yeah,
The utilities. Exactly what it says.
Yeah, so this falls under, my department. Yeah, I don't really, we do our best to estimate. I will discuss where's the electricity one?
Yeah, that's my question.
So we got a credit from the electric company, and this is where it landed, in the Cordova Center. And the reason it's at 92 now is because when you look at the reality of what we would have been spending, it's just a bit under that. And so we just put it up a little bit more because fuel doesn't seem to be going down anytime soon.
There was some PCE thing that the Cordova, the electric company had been putting in for us since we've been in existence, and something changed and they got it, and even some retro or something, right?
Yeah.
They
It
came
has
and
to do with the
helped us.
LED.
Yeah, okay, Emma,
Emma did, yeah.
yes.
The electric, it includes electric for the chamber then? I'll see him.
Oh, yeah. Where's the Chambers Electric on that?
Mhm. Maybe that's part of their agreement. I'll find out.
Anything else on utilities? For utilities? Public Works Administration.
So generally, I didn't change a lot in my budget. Communications got zeroed out because the communications for people in the most of us in the general fund is now going to non-departmental. It just saves an enormous amount of time in the accounting department, so they don't have to say, Dan spent $25 on our phone, $30 on internet, $2 on a fax machine, and $5 in postage. You know, it's just a big time save. It's like in your department at this, now. So that's why that's zeroed, and you'll see most of the communications, I try to make sure we're doing zeroed everybody out. And then in the past, I'm just in professional services, I've had that amount of money to help me with water, sewer, engineering, addressing DEC for all three departments, for even streets, and, then supporting some grant, applications and helping me work through those. Do you have any other questions?
With them?
He works with me again, his mountain's not here. So, Malvin is the guy who's, does all the facilities. He coordinates a few contracts that we've been trying to get these coordinated contracts to come in fire, all the fire inspections for all the buildings and the fire extinguishers and all those things. Garage doors is another one we've been coordinating with somebody coming in that's doing everybody's. And so Malvin deals with the coordination. He has the overall, other than the enterprise funds, he has their cost of that for each department. And then if there's an issue, for instance, you guys, we've done pool, upgrades for the fire alarms and things like that, then that becomes part of the department. But Malvin is coordinating and making sure these other things are being completed. Boiler is another one he does.
So there's big jumps with the chamber building,
Chamber building.
like structural maintenance, 16,000. Maintenance for the boiler, 15,000. I think it's like 101-602, 54036, and 54086.
Okay, so we did. I have to check with Malvin on that one, because we did remove the heater and put in a Toyo into that, building. Part of the 60,000 is to help with the CIP money. We have to redo the roof and the siding on the chamber,
So it's match money, essentially.
essentially, to help with that project. I will check on that heating, the boiler maintenance. For the chamber, because
I guess, how did we make money in other equipment repair?
How do we make money?
There's a negative number for
Going negative.
23 actual.
So far this year, I mean, I don't know if that's the type of work. We actually made $6,000, which is great. I just want to know how we did it. We can do it again.
I don't think we did.
Okay.
No, I'm not sure. It might have been.
I wouldn't think we
like
did
that,
either. but-
Zeroed out, because then we didn't budget for it, so we got seen that it was. Split in down between these.
And tying into our last discussion with the events coordinator for this place, I'm curious. The custodial supplies, how much of that 15,000 comes into these bathrooms and other facilities here that gets used during these things, so that would be interesting to have as we talk about our fees and schedule.
Good point.
And, yeah, is that be on this department?
It's two, it's the facilities superintendent as well as the janitor.
And then the temp employee is, in the past has been. When June was the janitor, to cover him when he takes, extended time, he tends to do a long trip, and so then cover him with that. And did some small shoveling projects in the winter and bush cutting.
And they just did all the carpets in the whole Cordova Center.
Yeah, they,
It was-
we had
for that.
someone to help June with that. All the
That was
carpets.
huge, even for two people.
Yeah. And the hardcore as well.
They were exhausted.
Anything else under that?
Well, I appreciate that, maintaining this facility. Yeah, they do.
Yeah, sorry. We're not.
Okay, streets maintenance?
Yes, how many vacant positions are in this department?
This superintendent, street superintendent.
And that budget reflects that position bill?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, this is 5 FTEs, 1 superintendent and 4 operators.
So, let me shoot out. Yeah.
Getting applications for that.
Is that again because the salary is too low or?
I would say it's a mixture of salary too low and also our applicant pool in Cordova, I mean,
We're bringing someone in from out of town. Well,
yeah,
who we need to be.
we are advertising out of town.
Right.
And we have talked to a few people out of town, and you think when the reality comes to, you know, I've always want to come to Alaska, I've always want to live there. And then you start talking to them, and they start really getting on the internet, and the reality, they're like, almost done, just gonna ghost you.
Yeah, no place to live.
There's a few people who are like,
No.
yeah, I don't think I can live in a place
That's
where I
too
can't drive some.
They go home and tell their wife what they're talking about.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the reality.
It's not gonna get any easier competing with private or
No,
quasi-governmental jobs that are out there now.
Mhm.
That are open. Yeah.
I will say, we have all our operators filled, which we have not had for a while.
Right,
We've
and
got-
that's what I wanted to ask. I knew it had been a while since I
Yeah,
had it.
and we have some good, young. Employees, one of them in Cordova, and one is staying in Cordova.
But I guess I want to address then, so this position isn't filled. I know it's rotating through and other department heads are filling it. Are we compensating them when it comes time to it
Oh, yeah.
based off of this salary? And they're, you know, you've taken on additional duties, they're being compensated and not being pulled from this salary in theory?
Anytime we have an acting status, there's a compensation in place.
Okay, already established.
Mhm.
Okay.
so we're not gonna do any chip sealing.
That is in the CIP list. We did not do it this year. So I'm hoping to roll it the next year. But that's a whole other budget conversation. I think we will we'll be ready to do it this year. We just didn't have the people in.
Right.
And it rained.
Yeah, that's money well spent, keeping those chip seal roads up.
Yeah. But you're saying now with current staff, that's something we could pull the trigger on?
I think, yeah,
Okay.
we've been talking about it and, you know, we'll gotta learn somehow. We have we have experience through.
Anything else on streets? Moving on to snow removal. Kind of a gamble there, either way.
El Nino, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and always it is a gamble.
Hammered and
Well, that's how I budget when I budget for de-icing. It's,
no.
throw, you know, take an average, a big long average and throw it in there, could be anything. And at the end of the day, you still have to do it.
Yeah.
Still have to remove snow, no matter what the number is, you'll need to do it.
Yeah, and sometimes with years like this, or as it has to be done anyways, spend a lot of time on overtime, I send out people to sand roads. Which is good, and we need that. And then equipment maintenance, that is the mechanics, we have 2 full-time mechanics. And I think we've talked about this in the past, we have some pretty large vehicle parts and repair budgets. They're actually down from a few years ago. It's again, kind of like the snow, if it happens, it happens fast and you need to fix it fast. I do know that we have a grader that needs a front end rebuilt, so that's about a 20 grand project, which will happen in the summer. And then we have budgeted for, under operating supplies.
Is it vehicle parts and repairs? No.
That's vehicle parts and repairs, that's where that, the grader will get done, that's an unknown 20,000, so we're looking at 30. Yeah, we have some old equipment, we have an unoperable backhoe right now, so we don't have that on, we're not fixing that because it costs more than the backhoe. We also need some loader time, so you will be purchasing those in a combination of operating supplies and vehicle parts. We'll be pulling some in the street side.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
Sam, I was just wondering, is that 2 FTEs in equipment and maintenance?
Yes,
Yeah.
And their positions are both filled, correct?
yes. That hasn't happened either.
Thank you.
Anything else on that? Moving on to park maintenance. Everything here?
Sing for your supper, buddy.
Yeah, totally. Oh, yeah.
I
I've got answers. So, yeah. I guess one thing to remember here, that 140,000 was large. Half my budget was made up of personnel costs, which are beyond my control. And we all know, and I've been here talking to you about the state of our assets, that things are getting worse, or they're going to get better. So we've budgeted some money to start addressing these things. You know, we've got, if I go down the list about some of the big numbers, so operating supplies.
I'm gonna stop you real quick.
Yep.
For head count, where are we at? Because I'm looking
Yep.
at, we obviously are somewhere and we are
Yes.
projecting to be somewhere else.
Yep, so we currently, all fingers crossed, got 3 full-time permanent employees in my parks maintenance team. The last one, starts on 18th of December. It's the same guy who left 2 years ago. Which is great, he's coming back, he's a good guy, but.
And you're saying there's 3, and that puts you fully staffed for full-time?
Yep. Yes, and we get a summer temporary worker.
And that's staff, that's your staff.
Yeah.
That's maintenance.
That's maintenance.
Right.
Operating supplies, so that is effectively gravel, rock, lumber, fertilizer, all those really exciting things, but the things you actually need to have in parks, if you want them to continue being a park. So those costs have gone up, they keep on going up. An example, if we were to re-gravel the breakwater trail, that's actually quite a bit of gravel we need to buy to do that, and that hasn't been done since it was installed. And we should be doing it. Should be topping it up almost every year.
Are they gonna bring some gravel, part of the harbor project, you can just sprinkle it out there, right?
Those conversations can be had, but.
Yeah, when I see TC's helicopter.
Yeah, exactly. Some of the other things in here, which, sorry, I'm jumping between screens because this budget doesn't line up with what we submit in our internal system and its breakdowns. So some of the other big numbers. So the rental lease, that's for the new parks van, that's the community leasing partners annual payment. The other cost / outhouse tenders, that actually under professional service. And I'll give you an example of what is in that. Here. So we've got a number of electrical projects we need to do in parks. Examples include replacing the distribution box at the Odiak Pond Boardwalk. That is currently an extension cord. Shouldn't be an extension cord. Should be a proper electrical receptacle. Other projects we've got to go through is we should be looking at all that again. Our internal distribution boards haven't had park flash assessment done on them. They legally should have done on them. This is all stuff identified in these Kaufman engineering reports. Again, another project under that other services, we need to upgrade our lights at our parks maintenance shop and not LEDs. We need new lights outside because it's dark. Yeah, so we will have to.
Real quick before you go on from that, you're saying, I thought, you said ODX Blue, there's an extension cord?
Yeah.
At ODX Blue,
Sorry, the board at the pond.
at the pond.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna say,
gazebo.
is that something we can just do away with? That's something we need to have a conversation.
Depends how, it's currently got a light out
Right.
in the gazebo.
Right.
Again, that isn't ideal. Get light. Should be a better light. That's some examples, right? Under vehicle repairs, parts and repairs, we need a new trailer to tow around our Kubota tractor. So that current trailer was 2008, the end of its life. So if we want to tow around our tractor, we need to invest in something to do that. Other repairs, so under that is again more some resources. Now that we're going to have a full team and hopefully we've got more capacity to do work, Because it's been part of the problem. We're clearing a lot of our fences and parks. I don't know if you've seen it's, Niddy Henson, that road, uncovered down there, not a country that. To a park, there should be a wooden fence like the top lot. You know, we need to get some consistency. We want to put in, maintain a lot of our structures, need basic maintenance. This is all deferred stuff. This is nothing new. This is stuff we haven't done in a long time. And we need to start catching up, otherwise things are just going to get worse. The other thing in here, equipment and furnishings, we'd like to get some new soccer goals with the parks. They're going to get some proper things. At the moment, everything's made of PVC. That's great. It's not really fit for this. Let's bits and bits. Other improvements, we need to move our fuel tank at Odiak Campground, or it's actually on that, at the park shop, is identified in the Cochrane. It doesn't meet national regulations. Too close to the building. We probably need a new fuel tank. Yep, and also at the park shop, it doesn't actually have any ventilation. The current ventilation is open the roller door. It's great sunlight, but not adequate for a working space. So we need to put a ventilation system in there. And also we want to do some work again at the park shop. So the boys out there actually have a break space. They don't currently have a breakout space. That's not fair. Every other building does. They can build it themselves. Some money for that. So that parks maintenance. Any questions on that? Yeah, go ahead.
I think this was prior to COVID, but we had discussed approaching the processors at one point to maybe help contribute to soccer goal, like better soccer goals.
Yeah.
Because then COVID and the campuses got shut down, so
Yeah.
it's kind of a moot point, but because that is a big asset for the community and also for the people who are at the process.
Yeah, and we can, certainly make those approaches, but fundamentally, yeah.
There in breakwater.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Not gravel for breakwater.
Yeah.
And a light in the gazebo where we get 16 hours of daylight during the summer months, and it's a short winter, but
Yeah.
you know, it's a little thing, but everything adds up.
It certainly does, right? And again, we need to make some room.
Maybe just pull the extension cord out and put a little solar light out there if you want.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you're 140,000,
Mm-hmm.
so I guess I'd like to see what you're gonna do for your fees for using these facilities to help make up some of that.
Parks doesn't make any money, so the only money comes in from Padaki and the pool.
Yeah,
And
that's a whole nother budget.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got it.
So that's part of the problem. We don't have no structure, so
I think that's,
yeah, it's purely expense, right? So, the other point I will make is, it's interesting tonight also that some of the facility utilities come under a separate budget, but my department has to pay their own. Yeah, with facilities too, yeah. And to the heating room and bits and pieces, so. I can skip on to my stuff since I'm here, if you want to come back to the cemetery maintenance.
Sure.
Yep. So administration. So that's effectively me and a couple of others who work across our department, so our programmer and my administrator. So there's very three FTEs there. Increases professional services, so I'll give an example of what I want to do there. So we need to decide what we're gonna do with Skates Kevin. We all know that that's end of line, and so we need to do some planning to work around what are our options. Do we want to build exactly the same? Do we want to build something different? What do people actually want? With valid questions. So we need to get some of that work underway.
Duncan, have
Yes.
you talked to the Forest Service, since they wanted to put a cabin on the Lake?
Yeah, we've,
Utilizing that site and maybe.
again, we've,
selling them the
yeah.
lot.
It's not interesting.
Yeah, we've had nothing formal discussions, but yes, there's been,
We gave him the slip there, wasn't
yeah, talk about potentially them taking the lease of Skates, the footprint of it, demolishing it, building a forest service. It won't be a cabin, because cabins have to be bookable on the national system. So it would be something different from a cabin. But again, we need to be sure that's the right thing. What do people actually, local people want to use it for? And yeah, there's issues of, if we did it with via the policy, that use might change. Yeah.
It's gonna be following a whole new set of codes and building standards to replace that.
Yeah.
Which is gonna create very expensive little building.
Yeah.
Very expensive.
Yeah, and they come, cabins are going at 250, 300,000.
Is there an opportunity here, and I don't know, I'm throwing this out here, for some volunteer labor if supplies were provided?
Yes, I have to say that that's probably not my preferred option.
Sure.
That's where we are at the moment. That's why we've got the problem we've got at the moment.
Sure.
But
it is an
option. Yeah, it wasn't built to building code.
Sure.
Even at that time. Yeah, so yes, but weary.
Absolutely, but it is an option.
Yes.
I think that's a viable option if you come up with a
We have.
plan, an engineered plan.
Yeah,
To
totally.
go by.
Yeah, and that's sorry, when I mean supplies, if the city were to pay for supplies, that includes engineered plans and
Yeah.
material, and if we're getting
Yeah.
volunteers for the labor, I think
Yeah,
would
like,
say we have
there are a few other questions around.
I would volunteer to make sure that he does the work right.
Yeah. Good idea.
Just need a strong mind and a bunch of weak facts. I mean, we back strong, how does it go?
Yeah.
Just
so-
exploring options.
Yep, no, totally, right, and again, there needs to be questions asked around, is that the most appropriate location, would you reorientate it, would you? Yeah. Cool. I'll move on to the darkie. So, as you can see, our temp employees, that's a really high number, right? We budgeted 25, the temp 46. That's not amazing, right? But that's the cost of doing business. We want to keep our doors open.
I would say that's the cost of providing a service to the community.
Yeah.
We are not providing, it's
Yeah.
not ran like a business
Yeah.
at all,
Yeah.
but it is a service to our community.
Yes. Again, as I said, I'm currently paying electricity and heating oil and my department's budget, it's not a facility. You know, whereas, other places are,
Yeah, but when I look year over year, that's something I can equate to. It'd be different if you're saying, we weren't in the past and now we are, or we are, we weren't.
Yeah,
When I look at the total number of going up, that's not, I mean, that seems in line with how
Yeah,
utilities are going.
we've done work to try and understand their utility costs. Yeah.
So speaking to staffing here, looks like. Is that, I guess, what's FTE here? Looks like way lower than what we actually were and what we're projecting for next year.
Yeah.
So this is the darkie.
It's probably my programming position, about that.
So one FTE that's been vacant this year or just recently hired?
Both.
Okay.
We've gone through 3 people, like, neither of them was the job for them.
Okay.
That first one, we've just hired another one, he starts, 4th of December, so.
And that reflects his salary.
Yeah,
Okay.
And the halftime
yeah, and,
permanent right?
yeah, and a half-time permanent position we have never filled,
Okay.
so.
And that's a part-time, half FTE dedicated just to this,
Yeah.
not split between
No,
another
just
place.
keep,
Okay.
again, part of that role was to help run programs,
All right, sure,
but,
absolutely.
yeah, so.
It's worth mentioning too, if we go back a few years, the sales job to remodel the grade school and put a gym in there was that we can now eliminate Bedarkie because we don't need so many gyms, and we're still supporting Bedarkie.
So, yeah, I obviously can't speak to that, but, structure maintenance, again, these are issues which are identified in the company report. We need to fix all the floor girders. We've all got big cracks in them. We need to replace and extend, a couple of our emergency exit stairs and, handrails. If they don't meet code. So, yeah. So that is inflated because some of the work will be able to do ourselves, some of it we're not gonna be able to do ourselves. Again, equipment and furnishings, we'll down to that. The other thing in the structure maintenance is, redoing our sports floor. So that was put down in 2016. It needs to be properly resurfaced, new markings, all that sort of stuff. Yeah, that's something we could be doing in a few years. Not, yeah, we've limited time, we've tweeted it. Equipment, the gym walls replacement, we seem to pay more than we want. Again, gymnasium equipment, a lot of things like gymnasium mats, they're really expensive. We're probably the ones we've got there are 20 years old. We're afraid we'll just give some nice things. And again, we want to put a more wall padding. Again, the basketball court literally against the wall. And it hurts. So, yeah, we're interested about safety of our participants. We need to install some more padding. In other improvements, fuel tank needs to move too close to the building, it's only single walled. Okay, so we need a new double wall one, and it needs to move 5 feet away. So, yeah. Pool, that includes 3 pool operating leader and 2 full-time lifeguards. Offered a full-time position to a candidate who just been through a course. We had 12 people to a lifeguarding course. Not all of them want to work for us. You know, people from the school district and other people, but yeah, so hopefully we've got somebody across the line for a full-time position that will drop down our temporary staff, but we still need temporary staff.
Right, so when you're saying not all lifeguard, paying for a lifeguard class, is that someone in-house that's putting that on at least?
Yeah.
And we're recouping costs?
Yeah, so I've invested into my pool operations leader who's gone away for a lifeguard certification. We then on charge the candidates to do it. And the ones we employ will probably.
Sure,
Yeah.
there's a benefit to the city.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure we're not providing a
No.
service to the community
Yeah.
when clearly we can't afford to do that.
Yeah, operating costs, give pool chemicals, they're expensive. Only one supplier in Alaska for a lot of it. So we have to pay them.
Now with that, we're saying operating supplies, none of those, that's for maintaining. Now, we're looking at emptying that pool, we're
Yeah.
looking at redoing the liner, we're looking at all those things. Then it's gonna include refilling the pool.
Yeah.
Is there a substantial increase of cost for chemicals and?
There shouldn't be, so, if we've already got the chemical on hand, so we're currently going through a barrel of, acid, muriatic acid, every month. That's more than we've ever been through. And we're trying to understand why. You know, stuff is expensive, it's dangerous as well, so one other thing I'll mention here is, under our professional services, I want to do a little bit of a study around removing the requirement for that acid to go to, carbon dioxide gas.
Okay.
But there's pros and cons, right? So we need to understand that, and we'll work with our pool.
And this might be more in line with HR. We're again going back to this pool renovation, which is something that needs to happen. Are we thinking about the possibility, and it could be a real possibility that we take the pool apart and it doesn't go back together, and now we have staff.
That's right. Yeah, we'll have to redeploy those people.
Yeah, just want to make sure
Yeah.
that's, even if it's the very back of your mind,
Yeah.
again, as someone, as we
Yeah,
established
yeah.
last time,
You know,
heavy user of the pool, but.
Yeah. you know,
Make
as
sure
a
we know that.
responsible employer, we need to allocate those to other departments. If, yeah.
You can.
The other thing about the professional services, the HVAC system is not good for probably 20 years. Nobody hears enough about it. So this year we've got some engineers in the game to say, how do we make this system work as best as it can? It's 1983. That's it's fine. It hasn't been changed. And we haven't understood how it works properly. So they've given us a price, that's like $25,000 to come and install some controls so we can operate that system as best as we can, right?
And I'm gonna say that's probably an under.
Well, yeah,
Once
yeah.
they get into it.
Yeah, so they've been to investigate it. Obviously, the Cochrane report indicated that we need a new system. That's 1.6 million. So yeah, this will go some way to making that a more comfortable environment, because currently my employees are working in 85 to 95 degrees, which is not what they should be working in. I think that's really, really clear. Yeah, so, yeah, and again, the higher the humidity in that place, the worse the wear and tear.
Both inside and outside.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't want to go line by line, but there's a lot of stuff we've installed which were never budgeted things for, right? So we've gone on board the system, nobody's thought about what it actually means every few years. So we've got to replace our salt system cells. They're currently after the use by date. They should be done every 2 years. We would swear of it. They cost $11,000. But yeah, like, yeah, it's unfortunate. Again, a number of projects in the Cochrane side, replacement of doors which don't meet code, things like that, right? So chipping away at the more lower hanging fruit, to bring the building back to as good as it can be. Yeah, so hey, I'd love to say we didn't need any money, right? Unfortunately, we do.
Well, and I'm just looking at numbers and just.
Yeah.
100% just me thinking, I think we're at an impasse of what can we afford?
Yeah.
And, it might be a decision. I see actually some audience participation, which is great. that we might be at an impasse of one or the other. Do we have the dark or do we have a pool? And it's just looking at these, something for the community to think about, because they're the ones who are gonna pay for it, one way or another.
And it's something the Parks and Rec master plan will help.
Yeah.
Guidance and thinking.
Yeah.
On, it's intent, yeah. Good. Any other questions? Thanks for your support. I know it's difficult.
No, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, sent in a budget, I asked for increase $5,000 in their operating, and they asked to add the phone to pay for the phone utilities, which is in the agreement apparently. They will also begin making snow shortly, and in the past, we have paid for that.
Where do they burn $8,000 of heating on? Where are they heating?
Snapchat in their warehouse.
The shop.
The shop. The shop.
There was a time before the lease for the towers. Right, I think at that time, were they even getting that lease money when it was like $2 a year? There wasn't anything coming, right?
For the cell phone number?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're the ones who originally negotiated the first cell phone plan.
Yeah, right, no, I'm
But
saying,
before that,
yeah,
no, there
it's
were
like
no
$2 a year, and then it went up to 35, where we got 35,937. So that's PTC, does the wireless also pay 35,937? Yeah, so they're getting over $70,000 that they weren't getting a few years ago.
Oh, it's been more than a few, but
Yeah,
yes.
yeah,
Not the entire time they've been in business,
no,
but it has been more than a few.
well, it hasn't been that long, 10 years.
At least, yeah,
Yeah.
always here,
Yeah.
yeah, 10, 12.
I'm just saying, I mean, it's, and then they're asking for more, and that was a pretty good windfall for them.
Yes.
Real quick on cemetery maintenance, is there a new piece of equipment you guys need there or?
Yeah, so we're looking to get a, well, we call it a grade box, but it's to put in when you're digging. Cause those guys get in the hole more than 4 feet, their hands digging down there, so it's OSHA requirement, is a safety item. That's the whole 7.
Yeah.
Non-departmental.
Okay. So it's almost 7, are you wanting to move through this, or you wanna, Susan, you can do it
Can you take that back?
after, or what do you?
We can recess the work session and finish it after the meeting if you want.
Use that term very, very loosely, but know that probably appropriate.
I'd like the public to here to know that this budget asked for is got a $1.38 million hole. Expenses $1.3 million over the revenues expected, so we either have to raise revenues or make some cuts, and more likely probably a combination of both, so. If you're interested in that, don't take off too early after the meeting. Don't anticipate our meeting will be too.
I think there's a few people in the audience who want some money too, so.
Anyway, so we will recess the work session. It'll probably take us the council meeting, it would take a couple minutes here for.
Okay.
Susan, there is a second line for regular meeting.
Correct.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. I'll sign off and back in.